Danny, welcome to Mastering Business Growth. How are we doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for having us on, and appreciate it.
No, that's great. So on this show, I'm trying to master business growth. So I like to speak to people who are doing very well or have got some great stories and find out what makes them tick, how they approach things. So please, let's start with who you are and what you do.
So my name is Danny Simpson, currently Chief Exec for the Mid Group, and I've got some non-exec roles and I do some portfolio bits. Live in Rochdale with my beautiful wife and 2 beautiful children. And that's currently where I'm up to at the present moment.
Lovely. So career-wise, what do you do?
Our core business was, we were an O2 franchise.
Yep.
So I've been in telco for 22 years. Before that, I would probably say I was a serial work changer, I would probably say. Would probably be a political word on this. My mum used to say I'd change my jobs like every 5 minutes. So I had loads of different jobs, figuring out what I wanted to do. I was lucky enough when I was younger, I was a DJ. So I started DJing at 16. Managed to get into some really cool clubs. I've worked across the UK.
So you're doing that professionally?
Yeah, worked in some clubs in the UK, did it abroad for a little while. It's how I met my today wife. And yeah, started on vinyl, moved to CD, started to fall out of love with it when it went on to...
So an actual DJ, not a...
Absolutely, not bedroom, not one of the ones that was doing birthdays, christenings and bar mitzvahs and all the rest of it. One of the ones that was in a club. Played some pretty cool venues over in Leeds. I think there's a place called Coliseum in Leeds. Okay.
Coliseum, I remember the Cockpit in Leeds.
Okay.
That was one we used to play at. So we were obviously, me and Sam were in a band many years ago. And that was an interesting one. But
music's always interesting. So yeah, worked in a few clubs, really good. Had the pleasure of working in the Nemesis in Rochdale, which was like a 2000 club. So yeah, I've done it all over. So doing that as a bit of a gig, something that I loved. The day job was just, bill money really. And then kind of fell into telecommunications. I was 2021. Pal of mine said, look, why don't you come into sales? You'll be pretty good. And I was like, I'm a manager at B&Q, thank you. I don't fancy losing my job. So that was probably lesson number one, really, because 6 months later, I packed up and went into sales and started as a sales advisor at Phones For You and did all the jobs, salesman, within 6 months, top salesman in the company, moved to sales manager at Market Street, assistant manager, store manager. Then I was headhunted by 3. Moved over to 3, store manager in Oldham. Had the privilege of working with a great team. Probably starting to figure out a little bit about how to motivate and inspire people, how to get people to sell. I think sales is a good skill that I think everyone possesses, but you just need to know how to unlock it. Because a big part of it is just communication and relationship building, which we've been doing since we were like 2-3 year old as babies. So I think it's just helping people with sometimes that confidence and unlocking it. I took Oldham to be the 5th best store in the country. Really privileged to do that. That got me a cluster role, an area manager role, regional role. Then a pal of mine rang me up and said, look, I know you're going through a recruitment process with Vodafone. I've got 2 guys that have got an O2 franchise. They've got 5 stores. They're not really sure what they're doing. One's an ex-bank manager. One's had some entrepreneurs in like the NISA health licenses. Never worked in telco before, struggling, paying wages on credit cards. They're in a position where they either sell the business or they bring somebody in. I'm very fortunate that the person they went to see to sell, give them a crap price, because that's the reason I got the job, because they didn't sell. I took the job, took a pay cut and said, look, if I can do this and turn it around, kind of get some skin in the game. And that was it. In 2009, I stopped DJing, put the commitment into this. Did the biggest sale of my life, which was negotiating with my wife that we were going to get. I started my job on the 1st of. She'll kill me for this. I started my job on the end of August, and we were due to get married on the 26th of September. And we were supposed to be going to Greece for our honeymoon for like a week, and it would have been our first week away without my little boy. And I started this job, and I just said, look, if you can give me the opportunity to stay and give this everything, and we'll sack the honeymoon off, I promise I'll make sure I pay you back in spades.
That is a bold move.
Mate, the honeymoon was in a caravan in Presthaven Sands. And yeah, I never looked back. Within 6 months, we'd turned the business around. It was debt free. 6 months later, I was given some shares and sales director, and then our journey started. And from there, from 2 million quid and 30 staff, 15 years later, I've just exited that business now, and that was 21 million turnover, 180 staff, and investors in People Platinum, which is probably my most proudest achievement, because only 2% of businesses in the UK get that 1% in the north. And I was the 27th business to be accredited with it, and the team fully deserved it. So, yeah, a great journey.
That is incredible. What's the biggest memory in hindsight, other than like having to reschedule your honeymoon?
Biggest memory in hindsight? Wow, what a great question that is. There's so many. You know, now I've just exited and I've still got other businesses in the group. We've just passed that back to Telefonica.
Because that is huge. That is a huge deal where you took it.
Look, it's. I think that is where I knew conventionally at that point I'd had a privilege of working in the corporate world, learning some skills, working with some great people. And I think you learn a lot in that corporate structure.
Yeah.
I think when you're starting your own business up, it's a bit sketchy because everything's everywhere. I remember I had to write our first handbook. It was atrocious. It was about 13 pages long. But you build the business out. So yeah, we ended up being the largest O2 franchise in the Northwest. And I have a real privilege of working with some brilliant people who did amazing things for our business. And that is the luxury of my job, being able to spend time with great people. And I think everyone's got a special gift. They just don't know it. And I enjoy trying to find what that gift is and unlock it. And when you unlock it, it's unbelievable the power of what people can do in a business and an organisation.
So obviously you started sales. That's what your skill was, I guess, going into it.
Definitely, yeah.
Right. So how much do you accredit sales, being real good at sales, to the success of the franchise?
That's a great question. Sales is probably one part of the process, I think.
And the further you got in, the more you realised, there's several skills that I'm developing here. Yeah, please go on.
I think communication is really important.
I would say communication is the cornerstone of sales, and that's what I'm learning more and more. The more people I speak to, it really is. And again, we mentioned it briefly just before we started shooting. Sales is not really something you do. It's more a result of 100%. The relationships you build.
Our life is one complete sale.
Yeah.
And I think people that say that I'm not in sales, I think every job is in sales. If you're an accountant, how do you get clients? You've got to sell yourself to clients. So you're in sales to some degree. And I think a big part of sales is relationship building. We sell ourselves to our partner. Wherever you meet them now, in today's world, there's apps, Tinder and loads of others. I met in a conventional way, which was, I was working in a club with my wife at the time, she was a girlfriend, but she came up and spoke to me, and that's how we started as a general interaction. I don't know how often that happens now, but it's a relationship building game. And I think you connect with relationships. Some people are for you and some people aren't for you. And I think that's what you take in and out of life. Your friends, it's not, I talk about culture a lot. Culture is extremely important to me. At the height of any business, all of the businesses I have the privilege of being involved in, culture is probably one of the things I spend most time talking about and developing, because I think it's massively important to how successful a business will be.
So just internal culture?
Yeah, internal culture, because we all have cultures. Our friendship groups, there's a culture within it. That's the reason why you're all friends, and that's why some people exit that friendship group, because things change, or the culture and the morals and the values change as we all grow up. That's the reason why very often, sometimes we don't often, I don't know very many, but we don't often marry or get into serious relationships later on in life with the person that we first had a relationship with, however old you were. Because I think there's all that figuring me out, figuring you out, and sometimes it's neither's fault. It's just you've got different views on life and different values and morals, and if they don't kind of interact with each other, I don't think it really works. And that's the same in business. Sometimes, why does everybody not work at Apple then? If Apple's such a great business, as an example, and they are one of the globally recognised powerhouses of a business, but not everybody wants to work at Apple because that's not for everybody. So even some of the biggest businesses in the world that are great and a great brand reputation that we think about, sometimes it's not the place for us to work because culturally it's not for me. I don't fit, or it doesn't fit me. And that's the hard thing as a business owner or as a business leader, I guess, whether you own a business or not, whether you as a manager or leader in a business. Sometimes those difficult conversations are the ones that we put off, but they're the ones that are needed the most.
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes trying to go into it with, I'm a human, you're a human. I think, I always think to myself before a difficult conversation that I know I'm going to have, I always think about how would I want that delivered to me? And I go through a lot of it, and I run through it with my wife, or maybe another confidant that I've got. And I'll kind of say, this is the conversation I'm going to have. This is how I think I'm framing it. How would you receive that? Whereas often people don't. And that's where sometimes we all will make mistakes. I'll still make mistakes in some of them planned conversations because you can never plan too much because you don't know how somebody's going to react, right?
Yeah.
But I think try to do it as best as possible as a human to a human and think, how would I want that delivered to me? Because sometimes it's not news, whether it's from all sorts in your career, you have to sometimes have conversations with the way somebody smells, which is real. Sometimes to somebody's maybe time and attendance. Sometimes it's just not working out, and somebody's quite disruptive in the organisation. And I guess it's just trying to have them conversations like you would do in your personal life if you and your friend are just kind of not seeing eye to eye.
Yeah, I got you. And
we lose that human touch, I think, sometimes because we're responsible for them people. I think I take that responsibility really, really, really hard. And I don't know whether everybody does or doesn't, but I remember I was going through a process with my wife in 2017. It was not long since we did a big acquisition in 2016. It was like £4.5 million. And so I think it was 2017. I was going through a process for my wife's new car on a finance application. She said, how many dependents have you got? And I said, 182. She went, what? I said, I'm joking, just got the 2. But because I took it serious that when you're employing them people, they trust me and the business with their lives, the livelihood, the bills. That you don't take that lightly. So it's about how do we work together. It's a contract, isn't it? That's what there's a contract of employment in place. So it's working together to maximise that.
I got you. Do you know, going back to what you say about having these difficult conversations, I find more and more, the more responsibility I take on, whether that's personally or in business, you just can't avoid these situations where it's like, God damn it, I have to have this conversation now. And it can be, it depends who it's with, obviously, but I've found sometimes you're looking for a secret way to be like, how can I make this pain-free?
Yeah.
Sometimes there isn't.
No.
Sometimes you just have to be like, this is going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it needs saying.
Yeah.
It needs doing. And you just kind of got to, in my case, maybe not zone out, but be like detached from it emotionally and be like, this is what's happening, man. This is the deal. Not working, is it? Or so-and-so, it depends what it is. But yeah. I find there's that's a skill worth developing.
Absolutely.
The ability to just be like, okay, I don't want to do this, but what am I going to do? Can't not.
Yeah. I think in business and in your careers, whether it's you own a business or you're working in a role, I think the more senior you become, I think the thing that I've discovered is the path is lonelier, it's narrower, the fewer people get you because you're on a different route to success. They're kind of going, what are you doing that for? Because they don't connect with it. And I think sometimes there is more uncomfortability on that journey. So I think getting comfortable, being uncomfortable without being cliche, because I know that's
it is a saying, isn't it? But it's true.
It's massively true. So anything that I can truly do that would make me feel uncomfortable and push me out of my comfort zone, I will do. Whether that's from doing ice baths to going to the gyms at wrong times when I'm, you might go in the morning, but try going to the gym at 10 o'clock at night when you're probably just ready for bed.
Yeah. Ice baths, you do them often?
Yeah, every morning.
Serious?
Every morning, yeah, every morning.
I've never done one.
I did it more from partly muscle recovery from the gym, but partly for disciplining the brain. When you go outside your house in the morning at 7 o'clock, right now, we're here in October, it's getting dark now in the mornings. It's cold, it's going to get colder, it gets wet. When you've just come down, 7 o'clock in the morning, whatever more time you get up, and you look outside, the least thing you want to do is go and take the lid off something that's probably 0 degrees, if not colder, or around that temperature, and go and sit in it for 4 to 5 minutes. There is no motivation in the world. Motivation will always get you started. It's discipline that keeps you doing it. And I know that by me doing it, I'm going to feel better when I get out, but it's the case of I will control the most powerful weapon in the world, which is our human brain.
That is amazing. I might have to try that. I imagine if you've done something like that, honestly, a lukewarm shower is painful enough for me,
Yeah, to be fair, I find it easier than a shower.
Right.
If you people say, start with a cold shower. a shower for me, because you've got warm air with cold being mixed.
Yeah.
I find it harder to do. Whereas getting in that, it's just cold. There's no warm around you. It's just all cold. So plunging into it is. This thing, I've been doing it for about a year and a half now. Love it. Don't miss.
Is it
it's
like
great
nothing?
For hangover recovery. The day after, if you've got hangover, get in that. You instantly, it's better than paracetamol.
Oh my God. Oh, it sounds awful. Is it like no matter what happens, nothing is going to shock me like this? Like for the day?
Yeah, I mean, for the first like maybe 20, 30 seconds, you're adjusting to that temperature, and it's focusing on controlling your breathing. But after that, I start thinking about everything that I'm doing for the day. I'm razor sharp focused. I'm like, it's almost like I've had 2 cans of energy drink, and I'm ready. I get in the house, I dry myself off, and I am racing to go.
Love it. That's interesting. I'll tell you, I want to get a bit more back to business again. Why did you exit the business?
Part of the process with, is a franchise. I think franchising, I've enjoyed my time in franchise. It's been great. I think it teaches you a lot. In most other businesses, I think if something happens where one of your sales lines dry up, you think it's all right, we'll launch a new product, or we'll launch a new sales line. In a franchise program like that, where we was with Telefonica, you don't have that ability. They control what you sell and how you sell it. So you're constantly having to adjust and find innovative ways to rework your business model, which I think tests you, because it's not the easy way or the obvious answer. You have to look other areas. But in 2022, Telefonica merged with Virgin Media in 2021, and in 2022 they just decided they wanted to take all of the franchise program back. And that was something they did with all of the franchisees. So that was 47% of their estate was franchised at the time. So they've just gone through a process of taking that estate back.
Wow. That's mad. I did not know that.
Yeah. So that was the business that we've just exited. And now, 3 years ago, we've done other things in the middle of that. So we launched a travel business in 2019. Didn't know what was going to happen in 2020. But we had a great time with that. We launched it with Hayes Travel. We launched in the January of 2019. We had a launch party in Dirty Martini in Manchester. We had all these influencers in the room. And the cool thing was, in the morning, my business partner rang me up and says, "Mate, you're never going to believe this. We're on the front page of the Daily Mail." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." And apparently, this young lady that came, she was in Coronation Street, and her boyfriend chose our venue to propose to her.
Nice.
So the press picked it up, and they was all there with our backdrop behind us. So people thought we were a hospitality and a high-profile celebrity travel business. So we had all sorts of celebrities on the phone the day after, and we ended up doing, from January to May, we did 600Ks worth of business. From a standing start, not doing anything. And that was thanks to, Hayes Travel that we were trading under the consortium of. We then wanted to move away and do it ourselves. However, 2 of our biggest partners were Jet2 and Thomas Cook. In the September, Thomas Cook went into administration and shut. So that was 47% of our business when we were just going on our own. Our license with Apta was suspended. It was unsuspended in February 2020, and we all know what happened in March 2020. The pandemic hit, so we just never really recovered. So we traded that business off, sold some of the assets off, and shut the business down. And then in 2021, we launched what we have now in the group, which is Mid Digital Solutions, and that was born through frustration. Right, so many people that are sitting here listening to this. But if you're in business, you may appreciate, I had a call centre, there was 13 people in it. One day the phone stopped working. So I rang the supplier, the broadband provider, and they said, "Yeah, it's not us." So I rang the VoIP provider, and they said, "Yeah, it's not us." I was like, "Well, it's one of you." And one of you is lying to me. And I'm not bothered who, but can we just get it working so we can start calling out and customers can call in? And it turns out that a day and a half later, we got it working again. And I just thought, there's got to be an easy way of doing it. So that was the birth of Mid Digital Solutions. And what we are is a one-stop digital shop. So we're one call, one solution, one bill. So we take care of all of your mobile business needs, your connectivity needs, your VoIP needs, utilities, merchant services, and IT. And it's all in one place. So we give you one person to call, because the other frustration is repeating yourself. I've got this problem. Yeah, I'll put you through to that department. And then with us, you ring the customer success manager or your account manager, whoever you're dedicated to, and we have to hold our hand up and say, the problem that you've rang in with, it's our problem. We'll fix it. And customers like it. So it's one bill, it's one call, and you've got one solution for all them providers. So it just makes it really simple as a business.
Nice. And working at O2, the franchise, what advantage did that give you for starting this new venture?
Well, obviously there was a common interest. We just, as businesses do, I was really lucky that Telefonica was a great brand to work with. And they had some great leaders who were very receptive to new ideas. So we talked to them about launching our own call centres in franchise. And I think there was about, I don't know, maybe a handful of us. Because at the beginning, there was 42 franchisees. And as I said to you, in 2016, it became a bit of a dog-eat-dog. O2 wanted to do different things. So we cannibalised ourselves. So we went from 42 franchisees down to 13. And during that time period, there was 4 or 5 of us that was just like, look, I think we can probably have a better conversation with our customers if we allow it to do it ourselves. And our call centre was born in my kitchen. It was me with a call recording system, a phone, my laptop, and I just started ringing customers up that we had current relationships with that were coming to end of life, and we flipped the model. So again, most people will probably recognise telesales as something we don't enjoy. So my view is I don't want to start a call centre to start taking business away from my retail. But what I will do is I'll use it to drive customers to retail. So what I found myself doing was talking to the customer, and what was refreshing was, I'm not going to sell you nothing. We're going to talk about a package. We're going to get everything together. And then the store that you signed up in, which was X store, and you were served by X person, I'm going to send you back in and you can finish the sale with them. So customers really enjoyed that. And that's what we started doing. And Telefonica liked that view. It was very different to what they had. So as franchisees, we started doing that, and we had the accreditation to do it. So that's what we did. So it was a big part of our business, that was ringing customers that were coming towards the end of the contract and pushing them into stores. So generating some telesales, first of all. And I'm not a telesales guy background, but, you're going uncomfortable and you try things and you fail and you get lots of no's and you get lots of other obscene words, customers putting phone down on you. And, I think that, I've got 3 words written on my arm, which is my mantra, which is pride, passion, and persistence. You need persistence in life and you need persistence in sales. You get a lot of no's, right? So I think that allowed us to, number one, we knew how to have a conversation over a telephone and cold call. 2, we had mobile, so we knew what we were doing with mobile. And somebody in a different business said, "You're retail, you'll never understand the world of B2B and you won't be able to do And it's different. Business is a relationship, and in business you have to be a bit consultative. Whereas in a retail store, it's transactional. They're coming in to do a transaction.
Yeah, literally walking in probably to buy something. It's like another thing to talk about Amazon. It's like people go there to buy.
Correct. Transaction. Yeah. I used to say to the team, customers have come in not for fish and chips. They've come in to either look at a device because they're thinking about changing, or they've come in to transact. And the transaction is something that happens in our B2B relationship. There is a transaction at some form in that conversation with the business. There's a transaction that's going to take place. But before it, there's a lot of other things, I think, the relationship piece. So putting the customer at the heart of everything we did, mobile phones and telesales, and being able to build relationships with customers, I thought, well, let's try and see how well we do in the B2B world. And I was that idiot that went to a B2B networking event, and I thought, with my team, competition is whoever gets the most business cards wins, the loser buys dinner. And that was how we started going networking. And it was, we very quickly found out that we have all these cards, you ring people and you go, "Hi, John, I'm Danny. We met yesterday at the networking event at such and such." And they go, I'm John. I sell stationery. And he wanted to sell me something, and I wanted to sell him something. I was like, this isn't working. Yeah. I'm ringing a lot of people that want to sell me something, and I'm trying. It's not working. So you need to, we started changing our tactics, and you find out that networking is about starting to build relationships, building trust, and making sure that, if a customer's got a problem and you've got a solution, then you're 3/4 of the way there of getting a sale. So they've got a problem, I've got a solution, we know each other, we trust each other. That's 3/4 of the deal done, in my opinion.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we started shooting, and it's so I want to talk about business development generally, and we've just already started on it. I'm curious about the difference, again, going back to O2, up to everything between, up to what you're doing now, and it's what's the difference? Like what things are consistent between them all? Obviously, let's say O2, people are going up to you, it's in person. So that's a big difference. But they're going there with the potential of buying something. So how would you approach that? What's the mindset?
It's a great question. I think, so through my own businesses, and then, I'm really lucky and privileged to have 4 non-exec roles. One is for a national charity called Cash for Kids. And that all depends on the same thing. You have to sell something to get somebody to donate. And, you know, a multi-academy trust and a networking organisation over in Manchester called Pro Manchester. And the thing that runs through it all is it's all about people and ensuring that you can have a conversation that's broad enough to build some rapport with somebody. And I think developing trust with somebody is really, really important. And then asking great questions, I think, is something that is really misunderstood. I think sometimes I see salespeople that just, you know, I open my LinkedIn today and there'll be messages going, hey, we connected yesterday. Let me tell you about what I'll do.
I can't stand it.
It would be something I would disconnect with straight away. Please, if anybody's listening and that's your tactic, it doesn't work. You might get some, I guess it's scattergun approach, right? If I send the same message out to 1,000 people, it's the law of percentages. But I guess for me, it's all about, you know, I would always message them back politely saying, look, that's not for me. And I try to do business with people that's in our network and circle. So I think some of the business development world and the part of business development is about building relationships. And it's about getting to know those people and then eventually uncovering with questioning, do they have a problem with the product that you sell or a service that you offer? And through sometimes that discovery, people will do it. Or alternatively, as we were talking before, in networking, I try to reverse it round. Often people go to a networking event to try and get something from it. Like, I want to get a sale. I want to get to meet him. I want to get to have a chat with them so I can sell them what I do. Whereas I reverse it round, I start with what can I give?
Yeah. You have to. That is literally how it works.
I'm a big believer in, I love reciprocal selling. I think time and time again, it proves to be just. You know, if I walk into I said this before, if I walk into a bar and I knew somebody in there and I said, do you want a drink? Even if they said no and I got you a drink, you feel obligated to get me a drink back. And that's the power of reciprocal. And I think if I can help somebody with what a problem is, you know, I'm looking to speak to this type of business or I'm looking to speak to this type of person, you know, you build your network out. As long as that network understands that sometimes actually, I know you've got a problem, this person's got a solution, let me connect you. Doesn't always work, but most times it does. They will come back and say, do you know what, it was a really great intro, thank you very much. And after you just see people and you get familiar with them, before you know it, they end up saying to me, do you know what, will you get one of your guys, or can you have a look at my company mobiles on my broadband bill, because it's astronomical. I've never really thought why I've never asked you before. It's really silly. And you kind of think, well, that wasn't my aim, because my aim is always to go out and build relationships. But eventually from those, the byproduct is you will generate a sale. But you've then got to work hard to maintain customer loyalty, right? So we would have in our organisations, I always believe the customer is at the heart of what we do. I remember in some organisations that I've been involved in, I would put an empty chair at the end of the table and they'd be like, what's that for? Who's sitting in there? I'm like, imagine the customers sat there. How would we behave? And is what we're doing benefiting that customer? And that's the way I can demonstrate physically to a board or to what I'm doing that the customer is always in my thought process around when we do something. Yeah, we want to make money, and making money we shouldn't be ashamed of, or it's not a dirty word. Just like sales, it's not a dirty word. But, you know, that's what we're here for. We're in business to make money, and we're in business to give opportunities and all of the other things that come with it. And I think from my perspective, you've got to make sure that the customer is always in your thinking process, not how can I make more money or how do I get more customers or...
Well, that's it, because making more money is giving people what they want. Again, I think I said this before, you can't make someone buy anything. People buy what they want when they want.
Correct.
So you can make people aware of who you are and what you do. And like you say, it's great. That's such a good mindset thing to be like, customers there sort of thing. And you're always thinking about them. Just because, again, if you can get them to want to buy something, all you have to do is be the first person to think of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes what we do is, I remember when we were going to launch other products, everyone was like, oh, you should do this. And my team was sometimes like, we should do this. I was like, do you know what? Let's go and ask our customers that already love us for mobile. If we could do another service, what would it be that would help you? And they told us it was our VoIP and connectivity challenges, because we're just frustrated by them. So they were our next one. So we started in B2B with mobile, and then we developed the other portfolio. We left mid-comms, and mid-digital was born. But that was born because our customers asked us for it. And realistically, sometimes we think, we've got to go and keep getting new sales. You do have to generate new business. Everybody wants new business. but how do you leverage the current customer base that you've already got? And that's about continuing to build those business relationships with them. And I believe in some instances, and we're not perfect at it, and I think we're just coming back through this reinvention of the model, is what we do is not really sexy, is it? I mean, let's be honest. I put a phone on the table, we put a SIM card in it, and away you go, right? And I think that's not too difficult. But then I always believe if we're not talking to our customers, somebody else is. So I always think about, okay, how can we talk to our customers? Well, why don't we tell them about a networking event we're going to? What's our customers doing with the CSR strategy? Oh, they've got a charity golf day. We'll go and take a team in that and we'll play it. Or they've got an event coming up. We'll sponsor a table. So we'll put money back into the customer and we'll invest ourselves back in so the customer can see it's reciprocal. And 9 times out of 10, what we see happening is when we go back out to re-sign that business, they buy other products and services from us. Because it's that reciprocal piece. Because I don't believe the big corporates of this world understand that. And I don't think they're agile enough. And that's not being disrespectful to them. I just think that they're not agile enough to be able to do that and understand their customers. I think one of the great things of our franchise program when we were with O2, as franchisees, we give O2 a face in the community because all the networks are kind of sort of faceless entities. They have a store on a high street. You don't really get to... The teams in the stores probably don't meet the chief exec or some of the senior leadership team that often. I was around my stores every week. I knew when we had, and it was a big test, and it got difficult the more people we got, but I could probably, up to about 135, 140 staff, I could tell you everybody's name, the parents, the partners' names, if they had kids, what they were into, where they were going on holiday. And we used to do stuff that they wanted to do. You know, we've done stuff like hiring cinema screens out. What films? Everyone's raving about this film. Brilliant. Well, let's hire a cinema screen out. Let's get all the staff together. They can bring their friends and family members and we'll all just watch the film.
That's so cool.
Because that's what they wanted to do. Because it's their business. I just have the privilege of leading it and I have to manage the books. And I think in every business, it's like the UK, I think there's 2 scales you've got to get right. You've got to manage the financial health of the business and manage the health of your people. The bits around it are the things that matter as well. But them are the 2 scales that I try to keep in balance. If your business is making too much money and you're not paying your staff enough, you're not going to retain and keep and develop great people. And if it's the other way around, you're paying too much, you're not going to have your business long enough to maintain that luxury. So I think it's managing them scales are my 2 big things. And what keeps people involved is I always come back to it's the culture. You can have a great strategy. A great strategy for me is fantastic. It's good to have, but if you don't know how to execute it, you've just got some nice stuff on a paper. If you know how to execute, but you don't know what the strategy is, you've got a load of people that's like standing on a football pitch, no goals, what we're doing. And I think if you've got a great strategy with great execution, but you have a poor culture, no one wants to stay long enough. So I think those 3 are really important to me. Strategy plus execution times by culture. Them are the top 3 for me that sit at the top of the table. What are we doing and why are we doing it? What's the purpose? How do we execute that? And then how do we maintain a place where people want to stay? So, example, one of my KPIs was we used to have this really cliche thing. I was big into playbooks. So if something happens, we pull the book off. Somebody's having a kid, right? What happens? So we send them this out. We do this, and we developed really cheesily. Oh God! We had a baby grower developed in 2017, 2018. Right. So that when people had a child, we sent them this baby grower out. That was when I grew up. I want to work for mid communication because I used to see it as if my staff love where we work, then they should be proud to recommend us to a friend or a family member. So one of the KPIs at board level was how many staff referrals have we paid out this month on the salaries. If we're not paying any money out, then either we've done a great job, we don't need to recruit. But if we are recruiting and no one's referred, then we've got a job to do because our staff don't love us enough that they would recommend us to a friend or family member, say, I work somewhere really cool, come and work where we work.
Got you.
So for me, it's because my team is my internal customer. So that's another way that I would look at it from a board perspective, that we put the customer there that's in our stores that's coming transacting, and in here in the room, it's all about making sure that our internal customers are enjoying what they're doing as well. Because if they're enjoying what they're doing, I know it's a Richard Branson thing, look after your staff and they look after your customers, dead true, love it. And I think that's really important for me.
We were talking earlier about how your experience being a dad has massively shaped the way you are a leader in business? Tell us a bit more about that.
Thank you. Great question. I remember years ago writing some content around this, which is called Parenting into Leadership. My wife says I should publish it as a book, but I think it'll just stay with me forever. I've had lots of privileged opportunities to meet some great people in business. I've got some great mentors that run some incredibly big businesses, and I am hugely grateful for all of their time, the information and the invaluable stuff. And there's situations like this, right? Podcasts where you can tune in and listen to people far more intelligent than myself talking about business and other things. But I think one of the things that we often do in business is we compare it to sport, because there's some similarities in that in terms of the discipline and all of the competitive nature that we need to have, and that relentless pursuit of being the best that we can be. All true, all agreed with, not contesting any of it. But I think some of my biggest lessons have been having the privilege of, I've been with my wife for 26 years. I met her when I was 17. I'm 43 now. And she is my scaffolding around what I do. And I think for me, it's really helping me be a better person, in the sense that sometimes men and women will conflict because we don't understand each other sometimes. But leaning into that, my wife's been a great contributor towards me developing skills about understanding women better, which in business helps me champion some of our female advocates, because I understand sometimes females will often put everybody else first before themselves. And I always use the analogy with people that if I put a job description up and both a man and a woman were able to probably have 60% of the skills for the job, a man would be like, yeah, I'm going to apply, I'm going to smash it, job's mine, this is done, totally done. The woman would probably be, yeah, I don't think I'm quite there, I won't apply just yet. So often what I find is that they have this is where we as men need to help them unlock that, because actually when you unlock it, they're more confident than ourselves as males. And as a male ally to championing females, I put a big portion of that down to the females that I've worked with in business. And the way I've been able to have those relationships in business is because of the way I am with my wife and the way that my wife is with me. So first of all, great team player with my wife. That's one part. And the second part is being a dad, right? Because when you have a kid, when you have children, I was very lucky to have children. My first was when I was 22, and now he's 20.
Me too, I think.
It's incredible to think. I look at him and he's 6'7" and he's 20-year-old, and I think, how did I raise such an incredible person, human being? It's such a privilege being around my kids every day. But when children are born, there's no instruction manual. And you have everybody trying to tell you what the right way is, and this is how I've done it, this is how, even your mum and dad, this is how we did it with you, and you got your friends coming around and everyone's got an opinion, from midwives to out visitors. And I think eventually you start to figure it out that this is a game of, as long as, keep them alive, we're going to make some mistakes, we're going to learn as we go along, the best of intentions. I think you learn so much, and as children grow up, it's just like a business. You've got your little culture at home, you've got your values, why you and your missus are together, or you and your partner are together. Then your child comes in and some of them values change, and as they grow up, it changes again because they change you. And your job is to coach them to be the best version of themselves. And children, I think, are born perfect diamonds. And then they get to about 2 or 3 and the world gets involved and it starts to tarnish them. We start to think about telling them what they can't do. No, you can't do that, because we want to protect them, right? So they grow up with the word no being used more than the word yes. And then you start to figure out, well, what happens if I said yes more, but we understand things differently? So going through all that journey with kids is fascinating. It teaches you patience, they test you. There's different things that they bring to you as challenges, getting them coming on with their own work when it's like whatever. And I'm like, algebra, not my, but let's do it together. So you learn lots of different things, and you learn that you can't tell them what to do. You've got to try to coach them in the right direction, which is the same as people at work. You can't tell somebody what to do. You try and guide them in the right direction of what they need to do. There's times where obviously you've got to tell them, but more often than not, it's about if they can arrive knowing what the answer is, then they're more likely to deliver it. So I think there's so many transferable skills from being a parent than there is, I'm not the chief executive of my house, but I can tell you my wife is. In fact, I'm probably the bin man and the car park attendant. I told you this before, didn't I? They were my roles at home. But, you know, my wife's the chief exec. She's the chief operating officer. She makes it all happen. And because that's what she's great at, right? And I lean into that and I dial things up and I dial things down. And then your kids come along and they play the part in the household when they get a bit bigger. And I think you're just creating that team. And you're going to have disagreements. You're going to have fallouts, right? Just like you do in business. And just like in business, you don't want to quit. Or no, when to quit is right. But I think in essence, just because something's bothered you or you've had a bad conversation with someone or something didn't go your way, you can't quit. But often what I see is people quit friendships, people quit relationships. You know, there's the quiet quitting out there, isn't there? I think, you know, we quit too easy because we live in a world of convenience and we live in a world of hyper quick stuff and I want it now. And I think sometimes there is no shortcut to business. Somebody said to me the other day, you know, just this week, completed my exit. And somebody said to me, if you could do it all again, would you? And I said, yeah, I'd do everything exactly the same. I'm happy for the mistakes I made, the lessons I learned. I'd change nothing. I had a hell of a ride in that organisation. And now I'm here on my next adventure. And I'm still learning being a dad. I'm still learning being a husband. And I'm still learning how to be a better leader. And I think I'm ready for the next challenge, whatever that is, in the next organisation that I'm involved in. And hopefully they'll teach me some things and I teach them some things. But together we'll do amazing things as an organisation. And that's all it is about, building great people. I'm not good at a lot of things. I'm good at 4 things. I think I'm pretty world-class at 4 things. And that's people, sales, culture and growth.
Right.
That's what people...
I thought there was going to be a trick one there like FIFA.
I'm rubbish at that. I find myself getting caught into other things, trying to play things like Fortnite, Roblox. Yeah. It's amazing how bad you become at computer games when you get older.
Yeah, I mean, so my daughter's mad into Roblox, and yeah, it's funny. She's there like programming stuff and making her own levels. I'm like, what on earth is that? I wouldn't even.
Crazy, isn't it?
It's insane.
And the new Call of Duty came out. My son's like, my eldest is like, come and have a go, Dad. I was like, the speed that these people are moving around this game. I'm like, what is this? How do you even get your thumbs and your controller to go that quick, right? I think I probably died 10 times and there was like a minute into the game. It was like, yeah, I'm done. I don't even want to learn how to play this game. But it's amazing. Things move so quick. So yeah, it's an interesting challenge, but one we've always got to go with.
Of course. You know, I'm curious. So again, dealing with the highs and lows, this is something I'm always interested in. When you had 100+ staff, that must have been a scary thing to maintain.
It was, and I don't mind sharing it now because I've been into a position where you kind of go through these things, right? I think vicariously, not wanting to do. I remember, like I said, we did the big acquisition in 2016, and HSBC said, would you go and do some speaking for us? And I'm like, I don't do public speaking, right? I mean, geez, can't believe I'm actually doing this. But yeah, you got it. Again, I did it because I wanted to be uncomfortable and get comfortable at it. And in work, it was in 2014. This was where we started really getting on top of well-being. It was starting to be talked about then, but I think thought we had it nailed and we thought we were doing a good job. And I used to take our top 5 salespeople out every quarter, bite to eat, couple of drinks, tell me the successes, guys. What's working for you? What's not working for you? You're the top 5 most successful leaders, salespeople in our business. How are you selling? What's working for you? Let's share some of that knowledge. And I remember one night we was in Manchester. I was at Almost Famous, took them out. We'd had some great food. And there's this one lad called Nathan. Larger than life lad, I promise you. He was the life and soul of a party. And the morning after, I took a call from my HR director saying, if you're not sat down, you need to sit down. So I pulled the car over. I remember I was driving into the office. I pulled my car over, and I'll never forget this moment. And she said to me, unfortunately, last night when Nathan left, he went home, and this morning he's decided to wake up and throw himself under a train at Macclesfield train station and committed suicide. And that really hit me because, as I said to you before, I always feel responsible. And I felt a huge disservice to everyone in my organisation at that moment in time, that one person in my organisation was clearly struggling with something and they didn't know anyone in our business that they could talk to. So we needed to change that and change it quick. And Nathan was a lovely lad. We did all the right things that you want a business to do for the family. We contributed towards the funeral. We attended the funeral. We wanted to make sure all of the things with his family were taken care of. And God rest his soul, he was a lovely lad. And my commitment was that we need to always be doing things to improve the ability of that. And what we wanted to do was, every business has done things. You'll have wellbeing ambassadors, you'll have all wellbeing programs. And the biggest challenge for me was, I'm not a medical professional. And I think everyone today, and wellbeing is such a big thing in all the workplaces, and I'm not a medical professional, and I don't think it's any organisation's responsibility fully to look after well-being, and I don't think well-being should sit in a HR department. Why would somebody want to go and talk about their own personal challenges to the department that dismisses people? So she could sack me or he could sack me, but I'm going to go and tell them about my vulnerabilities or what I'm feeling. It's not going to happen. Well-being happens, come back to the relationship piece. You can have well-being. We've had well-being ambassadors. We've done all of it. I've had 57% of the business was mental health first aid trained. Well-being comes down to this, for me, in my humble opinion, and I know that this may be different in everybody, and people may agree or disagree with me, but it's all of our responsibility in the organisation to take care of everybody's well-being. You're going to talk to who you feel comfortable with. If that's one of your colleagues in sales, it's one of your colleagues in sales. And I think what we can do is arm our people with the right equipment for signposting. So I want to sit in the mud with you. I want to listen to what the challenge is. And if you feel comfortable, no matter who I am and what job I do, if you've chosen me, I need to listen. And before I put my staff into any, or myself into any position of giving advice, it's stop and listen and point the direction. We need to be great signposters. I'm not a professional. I don't want to give you advice and it be wrong. I think as a company, it's about having a well-being strategy that is great, that people know what to do and when to do it, and I can signpost. But everybody's a well-being ambassador, because I'm going to come back to the piece before about relationships. I'm going to talk to the person I trust the most with my secrets or the things that I'm struggling with at home. And that was the journey we went on. I've never achieved it fully. I'd like to try and give it a crack in my next organisation, and the organisations I'm in now, Multi Academy Trust, we just talk about how do we deliver well-being. It's one of my top agenda points, because again, it's making that feel good. I'm not saying any of my team are going to skip home, but I know that if my team go home happier, then if they've got children, them children are going to grow up in a happier environment. Again, as a non-exec for a children's charity, when I started that in 2014, 1 in 4 children live in poverty. It's 1 in 3 now. That stat's not got better, it's got worse. So I play a part in business about employing somebody, giving them a good standard of living with a salary, looking after them when they're here, giving them a safe place to come where they can be authentic and bring the whole self to work, letting them go home hopefully stress-free. That then goes home, children grow up in a happier environment, knowing that there are good employees and good bosses around. And then that helps me fix the other things that I'm involved in, because it connects them. And right down to simple things. And, the man that, if he ever watched this, he will know he's the one that taught me this. Right down to me getting a postcard out. If I saw you do something really good, I'd write a postcard out saying, thank you for what you've just done, or whether it's performance related or not, blah, 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 blah. Appreciate you. I value you. Thank you for choosing us. And I'm really proud of what you've just done. And I sign it and I send it to your house. Not your work, your house. Because I know your children may read that.
Yeah.
And I've had pictures sent to me where the kids have pinned it on the fridge for him because mummy or daddy's got a nice letter home from the boss. Whether it's an apprentice that started, and in 6-7 months later, I'd write a letter to the parents saying what a privilege it is that your young person is in my organisation. He's brought so much energy, and I would just compliment them about the child that they've raised. That goes home, that young person goes home, and their mum and dad go, do you know what, we got a letter off your chief exec today, and he was saying all these wonderful things about you. At first they go, oh right, what's he said? like a skill report. But actually it's full of complimentary things that are genuine, not just said words, examples of what they've done. Words are cheap, they cost nothing. I can say a lot of different things. It's how you do them. Actions speak louder than words, in my opinion. And so all them small things came from that one stem of going, how do we make people feel better in work, that well-being piece, bringing it all the way back to that Nathan. So the trauma in our life, we don't know it when we're in it. But actually we grow so much skill and we grow so much resilience from it. It makes us a better person going through trauma. Nothing's permanent. Success, failure, it's all temporary. Most of the time you will get through it, and most of the time it's often worse what you think than what's actually going to happen. But choosing those people that you surround yourself with is really important. And if you're a business leader, please think about how you can demonstrate your ability to change these things that are important. Things like sustainability, equality, diversity, inclusion, well-being. These are KPI. These are things that feel sometimes like buzzy things, but these are the things that are really important, that don't generate any money. You can't see them on a P&L, but these are things that are really important for you to control. If you do them right, will have an influence on the financial performance of the business.
Well, of course. Do you know what? There's two things I just want to bring up. I saw a thing recently, it strikes true of what you just said, where it's company culture isn't, we have pizzas in the office, it's how people feel on a Sunday night. 100%. But another thing, it was from a conversation I had with someone else on this podcast. And, when you're pitching for investment or whatever, a lot of people talk about the ROI. People need to know they can put money in, put £1 and get £10 out. But something that's kind of untouched is the social impact of your company. And like you say, if you're looking after people in all these different ways and, hopefully, creating a place where people feel safe and they can talk about it, if they're literally planning to kill themselves and whatnot, that's the kind of thing, if you can really make people feel like there's someone in here you can talk to, that's amazing. It has a massive social impact. Yeah,
there's times in my diary where I put WF in my diary, and my team would be like, what does WF mean at first? And I was like, let's walk in the floor. Time to go and cooler talk, whatever you want. Just go and spend time with people, understand what they're doing. We've done lots of different things. We've banked with HSBC. I'll say it because I think they're a great bank. There's many other banks out there, but we've banked with HSBC for many years. They did a financial tour with us, and here's a big question. So if I asked a business leader, if you employ lots of people, how many people in your team are currently going to a food bank? They probably wouldn't know. And I've done this test with some organisations, and one of them was a very senior constabulary. It was the Greater Manchester Police it was done on, and there was a high percentage, which you wouldn't believe, of police teams that were using food banks. And these are people that are being paid to run towards the most dangerous situations and, unfortunately, are struggling to put food on their tables. So it happens everywhere. Food, there is challenges everywhere. But if you don't ask them questions and you don't talk to individuals, you're never going to know the answers. And I appreciate in some organisations where you've got thousands of people, it's pretty impossible as the chief exec to go and talk to 1,000 people. That'd be a year done, right? Just going talking to your staff, you get nothing else done. But you've got to use the sound bites. So my Monday meetings, when we got to our biggest was 184. I'd have a Monday team meeting, sales kick-off, and then we'd get into another meeting, which was our leadership meeting. And one of those things was look back. Tell me what's gone on, what conversations, who's having a baby, who's just lost somebody. Because if I walk into that store, energised, like Tigger the Tiger, and Luke or Diane has just had one of their relatives die, that's the most inappropriate thing I can do. Actually, I want to be able to go into that store and say, I heard what's happened, I'm really sorry for your loss, or whatever it may be, understand and ask what we can do. Now, that might be time off or whatever. That goes an incredible long distance with staff because I've took time out to go and do that. And if I'm not able to go and visit them, I'd send them an email. And if I can't send them an email because I know that would not be the right level of communication, I would probably send them a text message. That may cross some people's lines, but I think I've always had the relationship with my team to do that. But it's super important that you understand these challenges that are in your business because they're there, they're really real, and they exist. And if you don't know the answers, go and ask some questions and you'll be quite surprised by the answers you get, because that will drive lots of different things. And as I said to you before, I'm not trying to sit here and think I want my staff to skip to work and we're the best place to work. We've got all faults from the organisation, and even it's a challenge in the other business. It's 3-year-old, it's infancy, it's figuring out who it is and what it's doing. We don't have a lot of staff churn, which is good. We've got great people. So we're trying to build all those things in at the right time. And look, Bigger businesses, bigger budgets. Smaller businesses can sometimes sit there and think, well, how does that relate to me? Right? I've not got the endless pockets, or I've not got a HR director. But you've got something that you can do. And doing what you can do with the size and the capacity you've got, play the cards you dealt, right? That's all you can do. And all I wanted to do is go to work, do the best job I can do, build the business, make it successful. But I want to go home at night and put my head on the pillow, knowing that I've done the right thing, or tried to do the right thing. And there is no shortcut. I speak to young people. I have the privilege of standing in schools, sometimes in colleges, and talking to them, and they all ask the same thing, because when we're young, it's all about what watch do you wear, what car do you drive, and some of the cars are much nicer to look at than drive, I can tell you that. But I think from my perspective, there is no shortcut to success. There isn't. And do you know what? If you try and do the shortcuts, your business will be harder run. There is no quick fix. I feel sometimes challenged when I know somebody's just been parachuted into a family business and they're going straight in at a senior level. I cringe for them, because I think you've got such a painful time ahead of you that you don't know, because you've not done all of that bit.
Mate, even me with my small business, the things that I know, the qualities I've had to develop.
Yes.
In terms of just even positive mindset, patience, resilience, you name it. It's like you need to know how to deal with when things go wrong, as they will.
Yep.
And I think people who know nothing but the glory days, they just don't know.
No.
They don't know the half of it. They won't know how to deal with it when things go wrong. Some of my best qualities have come from the worst times of my life. And it's like, all right, well, got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. And when you grow in your business, it's about having the bravery of coming off the tools. Because when you're a small business, you're on them. You can't grow your business if you're constantly working in it. You have to work on it. So I used to always try and use a 3-tier system: in, out, and on. A third of my time in the business, a third of the time out the business, a third of the time on the business. Because I think it's hyper important to do those things that you're talking about, and to develop those qualities as your business moves through. So you start working on the business, which I think is super uber important, and then along come a lot of other conversations. And I think the biggest thing I can tell from my experience to most leaders is your physical work gets less as your business gets bigger and you become more senior, but your decision making is a lot more. So middle management probably making lots of decisions, and some are less important than others. But when you get to the higher level of a business, you're making fewer decisions, but with a much bigger impact. So you need to take those decisions a little bit more carefully, and never make a permanent decision on a temporary emotion. We can all have a bad day at the office and then think, right, that's my decision, I'm going to do that tomorrow. Sleep on it. We all have a bad day at the office. We all have an employee that's probably rubbed us up the wrong way. We may have rubbed them up the wrong way. I always see myself as I'm part of the problem and I'm part of the solution. What part am I in? What part of the story am I in? If it's friction and it's frustration, I'm clearly part of the problem here. So I need to go away and reflect and think, where was I the problem? And now how do I solve it? Because as leaders and as business, as entrepreneurs and as managers and leaders, we have a creative side to us. And that's powerful. And I think we're often always seeking this, we can fix it, we can solve it, we can find an answer for it. Today's the budget, right? Many people have been dreading it. And my post on LinkedIn today was all about, you're resilient. We'll always find a way through it. The right businesses will. Tough times create tough people and tough businesses. Weak time creates soft people. So I'm not saying I want it hard all the time, but I value the tough times because it's where I make my biggest lessons. It's where I grow the most. It's where I learn the most. And again, if you do it in the right way, if I do make mistakes, hopefully if I do it in the right way, people will forgive them.
Love that. I'll tell you what, mate, I want to bring this to an end now. This has been really, really interesting. Can you give me one golden nugget of business advice? And there's something else I want to ask you after, trying something new. I would like you to recommend someone that should come on this show.
I guess in business and in sales, don't take everything personally. Nothing's personal. They're not saying no to you. They're saying no to your conversation or what you're offering. So don't take everything personally. Even in business, when you're getting feedback, don't take it personal. Somebody's trying to give you some feedback, right? Business and personal lives are different. So don't take everything personally. And the person I think you should get on here, I could give you so many, but I think, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 3 really great people who've played a great part in my life that have got some fantastic things to talk about if you can get them. Phil Jones, who runs
Phil
Brother.
Jones, I'm coming for you.
Phil Jones, who runs Brother, I think he's been instrumental in my life, and I'm grateful for him being a mentor. So Phil, thank you. Steve Johnson, he's the chief exec of M Brown. I think he's got a fascinating story. He's built great teams, an incredible guy. And
Steve Johnson, I'll see you soon.
Then two great females, I would probably say Sharon Amesu from She Leads for Legacy. She's on a great journey, doing lots of great things, and has had such a colourful story in the sense, you know, from being the first black female barrister in Manchester. And I would say another lady called Sandy Lindsay, who is...
Sharon and Sandy.
Yeah, Sandy's great. She's now chair of the Rugby League board. She's had great businesses, done lots of great things, and them two are really iconic females.
Amazing.
2 males, 2 females.
Right.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully these guys will come on the show. I really enjoyed that, mate. Been great.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.